So today is going to be my deck review for version 1 of my deck for Crosis the Purger, and I think it's going really well. I really do. I had a good time making this. I played it a couple times already. I didn't really get a whole lot of downside from it while playing. There are maybe a couple questionable cards here or there, but I no longer have a bajillion cards extra or over, so let's go over the basics. So, basics of Crosis the Purger. Let's start out with artifacts. So, most people have mana rocks. This is going to be mana rocks, and these are my mana rocks right here. As we go down, just a quick review. Ebony Fly is a new card. I really like Ebony Fly. It taps for colorless, and later on you can roll a d6 and have it become an XX artifact with flying, where X is the result. Normally that would be terrible. However, when Ebony Fly attacks, another target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. That's the bonus right there. That's why you play Ebony Fly. So, and then we have some Izzet Signet, Lightning Greaves, Mind Stone. Then we have Nevral's Disc. Nevral's Disc kind of has to be included as an all-purpose solution to enchantments. That's why it's here, specifically to deal with enchantments. Oblivion Stone, same reason, enchantments, which is weak in blue, black, red for targeting. There are some cards, but it's very limited. So here we have Soul Ring, Swiftfoot Boots, Talisman, Talisman, Talisman. Vorpal Sword. Vorpal Sword was a fun card to include. It's also very new. It's really cheap. Makes all your creatures a threat by giving them Death Touch, +2 in Death Touch. And the bonus is until end of turn, Vorpal Sword gains whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. That's a heck of a bonus right there. Like it a lot. Definitely gonna be fun. And you want to have fun when you're playing Commander. So, those are the artifacts. Next up, we have the creatures. And a lot of these are going to have a lot of discussion, because this one here, I'm playing this for Haka Whispering Raven because it's an early 2-drop and has Scry available, and it's probably going to get through. But at the same time, it's kind of a bonus card because later on, his first ability gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand and each foretold card you own in exile. That's really irrelevant to me. I don't really care about that. The important part is at the beginning of your end step, choose a card type, then reveal the top 2 cards of your library. Put all cards of the chosen type in your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. Now, in the last couple games I played with this, it was kind of a miss, but it did end up filtering out 6 cards that I absolutely didn't want. I kept naming instant, and that probably should have tried sorcery sometimes. It's kind of temperamental. I suppose I could have named artifact and hoped that way. I was hoping just for a straight up kill spell from an instant though. But either way, you have early game with Haka, the Whispering Raven. Late game, draw cards with Alrun, God of the Cosmos. There's very little downside to this. Very little. And I'm imagining at some point I will be attaching Vorpal Sword to it and killing somebody, and that'll be tons of fun. Okay. Author of Shadows. Author of Shadows was included because I needed some graveyard removal. That's what he does. Exile cards from all opponents' graveyards. Choose a non-land card exiled this way. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. Now, in addition to graveyard exile, it fits the theme of the deck because this is a steal effect. And the deck wants to steal your opponent's stuff. It tries really hard to steal the stuff. Okay, so here we have Baleful Strix, which is just generic, overall good, flying Death Touch, draw a card. I find Baleful Strix extremely useful. Cemetery Illuminator. Cemetery Illuminator is so many different possible things. Like, when Cemetery Illuminator enters the battlefield or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard. So right there, the minute you play it, you get it for graveyard exile. You target your opponent's graveyard. Exile something from their graveyard, just flat out. Something annoying that you hate. And as a bonus, that reverberates back to you. Alright? And you get to look at the top card of your library at any time, once each turn, so that means on your opponent's turn too. You may cast a spell from the top of your library. If it shares a card type with the card exiled with Cemetery Illuminator. I couldn't believe this card when I found it. It is super over the top for its power level. At 3 mana, it is probably better than what am I trying to think of? A lot of over the top cards. Green one, can't think of the green one right now. I'll just try and find it. So top card play for green. And it's a creature, so we're going to cut that down a little bit and search. There it is. So I would honestly say that Oracle Moldiah, I mean, if you're not playing like straight green, yes, you get the extra like land from Oracle, but Oracle costs 4, and Oracle's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But Cemetery Illuminator costs 3, and yes, you can't play lands because it says cast. But who really cares? An extra card draw every turn, and it's just kind of sits there as a constant threat as well, or it generates threats. And I don't even, let's see how expensive Cemetery Illuminator is. So this is probably pretty cheap. It's $1.50 Mythic Rare, and super good in Commander. And these, I really hate this double feature garbage. Where it's the same picture but black and white. It's terrible. Yeah, but Cemetery Illuminator is super good. We got pre-release, Crimson Vow, extended art, weird black and white picture. So for $1.50, you can include this in your commander deck, and it's amazing. So it exiles cards, draws you more cards. It's amazing. Here's the big bad daddy of the deck, the commander, Crosis the Purger. He wrecks your opponent's hand. If he is a 6/6 threat all the time, and whenever Crosis the Purger deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 3 If you do, choose a color, then that player discards. Then that player reveals his or her hand, discards all cards of that color. Great. Super, super great in Commander. So he stays there as a constant threat. And, I mean, turn 7, he's just going to wreck somebody. Or maybe you get him out a couple turns earlier with your mana rocks. He's going to wreck somebody. So, I think this was one of the more questionable cards, but it really fit the theme. So it has Shadow, which is great. So it's always going to hit. So if a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it with a void counter on it. So instead, exile it with a void counter on it. So this, I don't really need more graveyard exile. Not really this effect. But the important part about this card is sacrifice Daithy Voidwalker, choose an exile card an opponent owns with a void counter on it. You may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. Without paying its mana cost is a huge theme in this deck. I want to play things for free. I want to steal your thing. I want to steal your stuff and mess with my opponent. So this is a free effect. Only costs 2. Later on you just tap it, sacrifice it. Totally fine with that. And in the meantime, who knows what you're stealing. You're probably killing something and getting something amazing back. Or they're just discarding cards for some reason from some spell that does that. And yeah. Or you make them discard with Crosis the Purger. And then you get the spell back later. And double wreck them. So that's pretty crazy. Crazy good. Dazzling Sphinx. Dazzling Sphinx. Couldn't believe this card either. So overpowered at 5 mana. It has flying. Whenever Dazzling Sphinx deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then that player puts cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of the library in a random order. So you're getting a free instant or sorcery from them. Free. And you don't even have to cast it if it's not beneficial to you. But in the meantime, it's a 4/5 flying threat that's going to mess somebody up. Like if it gets through. No downside. And you're stealing your opponent's spells again. Tali Primal Storm. Big baddie. 6/6. And it triggers on attack. You don't even have to hit them. Alright. So whenever Tali Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. Super good. Even better in multiplayer. So has to be in. Free effect. Fallen Shinobi, same idea. Has ninjutsu, which is great because I do have early game creatures and this can come out a turn earlier. And it says, whenever Fallen Shinobi deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library until the end of turn. You may play those cards without paying their mana costs. It's like, okay, more free spells. Thank you. Makes it a constant threat. Here's another constant threat. Limerich, Desert Doom. You really gotta check this guy out. Like, this is some top-notch stuff for Commander. Flying, Limerich, Desert Doom has word 4 as long as it's untapped. Somewhat relevant. I guess when it's not attacking, saves itself first turn. When Limerich deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Worth playing right there. Bonus. Then if you have fewer than 3 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. So you could draw like 3 cards with it. Constantly. Refill your hand. And it's a threat. the power level of new cards is just off the charts. It really is. Like, I didn't even bother going back to older sets when I was making this. That I really didn't. A couple cards came to mind here or there to put in, but this is like all new. So. Okay, now you have Junji the Midnight Sky. So it has Flying Menace. When Junji the Midnight Sky dies, choose one. Each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life. Or put target non-dragon creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose 2 life. Pretty great overall. Then we have Carry the Swirling Sky, also new. When Carry the Swirling Sky dies, choose one, return any number of target non-land permanents with total mana value 6 or less to the owner's hand, which is great by itself. Or mill 6 cards, then return up to 2 target instant or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. So if they don't have anything to return, you can mill and hope to draw something back. So this one's fun. Nascent Metamorph. Whenever Nascent Metamorph attacks or blocks, target opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. Nascent Metamorph becomes a copy of that card until end of turn. Then that player puts all cards revealed this way on the bottom of the library in a random order. So this goes along with the Steal effect. It's really cheap. It costs 2. It's 2 mana, and you're just whirling from the top of their library. So, Nashi Moon Sage Scion. So also very new, also very good. So whenever Nashi Moon Sage Scion deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of each player's library until end of turn. You may play one of those cards. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana cost equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So in Commander, that's pretty crazy good. This could probably be your Commander if you wanted it to be. It's a legendary rat that gets you free spells in black. Don't know if I really have any life gain in this deck. Don't know if any of these guys gain life. Haven't found that relevant yet to really care about gaining life, but if it becomes relevant, maybe I'll add some life gain effect. I don't think I need it right now. Nightveil Spectre. Nightveil Spectre is probably going to get cut just because it feels a little old, feels a little weak, and there's probably better stuff. But for now, it is in the deck. Whenever Nightveil Spectre deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top card of their library. You may play cards exiled with Nightveil Spectre. So, yeah, that feels super weak compared to most of the new cards in here. But I haven't gone back and looked through the older sets yet. There's generally a card like this in most sets. I went through a ton of sets when I was making this deck. Ton of sets. And I could go back to a couple more, but if I did, I would also be making another deck at the same time, which I'm kind of waiting on Streets of New Carpenia to come out, because I see right here that they have Broker's Ascendancy. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. I can't think of a more broken +1 counter effect, potentially, where you get free counters at the end of your end step. And I know there's plenty of things in green that you could double that with. So I just don't know what the commander might be yet for this counters deck. It keeps turning into different colors. The only thing is, I literally play these colors already, and I don't know if I want to make another deck with that right now. It'd be very different from the current one though, but either way. So Nightveil Spectre, probably cut at some point, but for now it's in, it's good, it does its job. Worst case, you exile something that they want, and okay, yeah, you exile it. I suppose it could be Hypnotic Spectre. It could be. Rakshasa Debaser. Whenever Rakshasa Debaser attacks, put target creature card from defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So fits the steel theme pretty clear. 6/6 threat, happens on attack, doesn't even have to deal damage. 6 mana is really doable in Commander. And it has Encore, which I may never use, but for 8, exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. So in a multiplayer game, that becomes really stupid good for 8 mana. Or in a long game, for me, it becomes good for 8 mana. So, oh, here's another new one where the hits just keep coming here, people. So instead of clone, all right, because I'm tired of clone, doesn't work well. At least generally doesn't work well. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player mills 3 cards. You may exile a creature card from among the cards milled this way. If you do, Shadowkin becomes a copy of that card, except it has this ability. So each player mills 3 cards. So you're stealing a creature from them and turning your 2/2 into something amazing. I don't see any downside to this, and this is definitely the clone replacement of choice. The reality chip. The reality chip may get replaced, but I like it for what it is. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, which is okay. It gets better when you attach it to a creature, so as long as the reality chip is attached to a creature, you may play land cards and cast spells from the top of your library. So that's why it's currently being played. Maybe it gets cut later on, not too sure, but right now it's going to be played. So, okay, so Thief of Sanity is Nightveil Spectre's bigger, badder, newer Spectre. Whenever Thief of Sanity deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 3 cards of that player's library, exile one of them face down. You may put the rest in their graveyard. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may look at it and you may cast it, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color of any type to cast that spell. So that's why Thief of Sanity is in there. That's why it's better than Nightveil Spectre. I don't know if there is another one of these effects. There probably is. I mean, I know I can play. There's a blue merfolk that does this. I think it's called Thada. It's called Thada. So I could play Thada. It's on color. It makes sense. It steals artifacts. So it makes total sense to play Thada. I already currently play this spell though in a different deck, and it's killed pretty much the minute it comes out. It might find its way into this deck as well to replace Nightveil Spectre. Island Walk is pretty big, so chances are, well, they don't always have an island, but Island Walk's pretty big in some games. So currently not in there, but it could be. Westgate Region. Westgate Region was put in here as a threat because It's a 4/4, has ward discards, that has some level of protection. Whenever Westgate Region deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. So that's really bonkers. You would typically find that in a green effect, but here it is on a black card. So it becomes 8/8, 8/8 becomes 16/16, and if they're really gonna survive, yeah, the next hit, when it becomes a 32, I don't think they're gonna survive that. So, Wildfire Devils. Wildfire Devils is the recursion of the deck, and also, keeping on theme, Wildfire Devils lets you steal your opponent's spells, as long as you're lucky on the dice roll. So, whenever Wildfire Devils enters the battlefield, and at the beginning of your upkeep, choose a player at random. That player exiles an instant or sorcery card from their graveyard, so they get to pick, but whatever. If they only have like one, you get the one. Copy that card. You may cast that copy without paying its mana cost. Very key right there. Without paying its mana cost. Because there are other red cards that do the same thing, but you have to pay. And I don't want to pay. So, I haven't been able to get this guy out and play yet, but he's very on theme. He's a 5/6. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. Until end of turn, that player can't cast spells, so you neuter them for a turn. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of your library and may spend mana as though it were any mana cast that spell. So, you may look at the top card of their library. I misspoke, but that's the theme of the deck. Steal stuff from them. So it's a 5/6. It steals their stuff. Maybe it doesn't stay in play that long, but it draws you cards, and they can't play spells on your turn. Well, next turn, but still very good. Very, very good. Okay, we're on to enchantments. We only have one. Curse of Hospitality. Curse of Hospitality, enchanted player. Creatures attacking enchanted player have trample, so all my creatures will have trample. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to enchanted player, that player exiles the top card of their library. Until end of turn, that creature's controller may play that card, and they may spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast that spell. Normally I wouldn't like this because it's only till end of turn, but I'm exiling their library, not my library. So I don't care about their exiled cards fizzling out. Next turn, when I have more mana, I can just attack again, and if it deals combat damage, actually steal something. So that's super on point, super on theme. And we are on to instants. So instants mostly going to be removal. So here we have Bedevil, pretty clear-cut modal removal, artifact creature planeswalker. Crosis Charm, we have Bounce, destroy target non-black creature, destroy artifact. Cyclonic Rift, very key in this deck because if you really want to mess somebody up, you're playing Cyclonic Rift overloaded at the end of their turn, and you have your general Crosis the Purger in play, and you wreck them. You make them discard everything you just returned. So that's like best case scenario. Divide by Zero. Divide by Zero is in the deck because it bounces a spell or a permanent back, so it's sort of a counter spell, sort of a bounce. The negative is, according to Wizards official rules, you cannot get your learn spell or your lesson spell from outside the game unless your play group doesn't follow those rules. So you pretty much have the option of discard a card to draw a card or do nothing by official rules. But just for the effect initially at 3 mana, the effect by itself is worth it. You either have a delay tactic or a bounce. So either works. Doomblade got thrown in here, pretty cut and dry. I feel like I actually replaced Doomblade because I do not see Terminate in here, so I'm gonna correct that right now. Get rid of Doomblade, put in Terminate. Okay, because Terminate's just blatantly better. It's just better. Hurl Through Hell may eventually get cut, but it's on theme. Exile target creature. It's on a turn. You may cast that card. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. This sadly will not get you their commander, because they can just put their commander in the exile zone. And that's kind of a bummer. And it may get cut just for that reason. So, Culligan's Command is in here because it's extremely good, very modal, does everything I want it to do. 2 damage, artifact, discard, return a creature card from graveyard to your hand. Okay, you do all the things. So, originally I was going to have Mana Drain in here, but currently I don't have Mana Drain, so that just got cut for Counterspell, because I don't feel like paying the extra money for a Mana Drain right now. I really don't. I don't know if I even really want to play the Counterspell, but Counterspell's in over Mana Drain, just for saving me some time and money. Whenever Mana Drain gets reprinted again, I'll just buy it. I feel like it's a little bit too expensive right now, though. So, how much is a Mana Drain? Okay, it's much less expensive than I thought. It's only like 40 bucks. So, I might just go out and buy a Mana Drain. Because that's much cheaper than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be like 150 bucks, like that Mana Drain over there, but for 40 bucks, it's worth it. So right now though, it's Counterspell replaced by Mana Drain later on sometime. Okay, so let me just check something quick. Save deck, load. Yeah, so this is the Crosis Purger version. This is the more final-ish version. Okay. Prismari Command is not that good from playing it. It does a lot of things. Most of the time it destroys an artifact. Maybe it kills something for 2 damage. Maybe I'm creating a treasure token. I'm not often drawing 2 cards and discarding 2 cards. But it does a lot. It's still worth it. Just because of all the things it does. At the very least, it destroys an artifact. There you go. So, Reinterpret. Reinterpret is the super unfair counterspell in the deck. For 4 mana, counter target spell, you may cast a spell with equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. So this is kind of the reason why Mana Drain should be in the deck. Probably will be in the deck. But for now, it's just counterspell, and we have Reinterpret. So, Terminate, of course. Vampiric Tutor got put in the deck because, yeah, there were there was originally a sideboard tutor, but apparently sideboard tutors are not allowed anymore. There's no more sideboard. Unless you, again, your play group will allow it. So, just a tutor. And we're going to skip over lands and do lands last. So, Ashiok Nightmare Muse is very important to this deck. -3, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Then that player exiles a card from their hand. So you bounce, exile. Really good. Mostly there for targeting enchantments, but could target anything. Create a 2/3 black nightmare creature token with whenever this creature attacks or blocks, each opponent exiles top 2 cards to their library. Doesn't seem relevant. Really doesn't. Most of the time I'm using it for the -3. Maybe it eventually gets to 7. Maybe. You may cast up to 3 face-up cards your opponents own from exile without paying their mana cost. So this actually gets you anything, not just stuff exiled by Ashiok. So that makes it even better because there's a lot of cards that exile in this deck. Dak Fade In, steal your opponent's Soul Ring. -2, gain control of target artifact. I don't really care for his +1. That's not really why he's there. I will be occasionally using it. The -6 is super irrelevant to me. I mean, maybe I could use one of the commands and deal 2 damage to something and not kill it and then steal it. So there's a scenario where that works, but probably not often. Jace the Mind Sculptor does everything you want it to do. Draw, bounce a creature, look at the top card of the library, does everything you want it to do. Oh, Kaito Shizuki. Kaito is a new planeswalker. He is literally in the deck as an alternative for draw discard. Instead of like a spell, like an instant sorcery, or even instead of Phyrexian Arena. That's why he's currently in the deck. So I don't really care about his ninja ability of making ninjas. I suppose that might be relevant, but at some point. But let's see, it's -7. You get an emblem with whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a blue or black card. Blue or black creature card, put it onto the battlefield. So maybe you get it to 7. I don't think it'll ever happen. But he's there as a draw effect. And I find very often I'm just getting the card, like, or I wait, I attack and get the card and extra card on a planeswalker. So, and also they're going to attack the planeswalker and deal damage to the planeswalker before you, so saves you some life points. Liliana Death's Majesty. I don't care about the 2/2 zombie creature token. Mill is kind of irrelevant to me. I care. It interacts a little bit with other cards on the mill, but not a lot. The main purpose of this being in here is the -3. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. I wanted some card in here to do graveyard return. To the battlefield graveyard return. So Liliana fit the bill, and I wanted it to be a planeswalker if possible to have, because planeswalkers are just infinitely repeatable, and if anything, most decks are not designed to handle planeswalkers still, which seems really odd to say, but it's true. Okay, Nicobolus Dragon God, very, very good. Has all loyalty abilities of all of the planeswalkers on the battlefield. Okay. You may draw a card. Each opponent exiles a card from their hand or a permanent they control. So it just blatantly draws you cards and they lose card advantage at the same time. And for 5 mana, you're killing something. You're killing a creature or a planeswalker when it first comes out, and then after that, it just, you sit there and draw cards. Like, what's the downside? There just isn't. And then maybe you get to 8. Each opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or planeswalker loses the game. Maybe you get to 8. Nicobolus the Planeswalker, 7 mana. If you make it up to 7 mana, you're probably crushing it already. And if you're not crushing it already, you just removed like their biggest threat. And it's repeatable. Like, there's no downside. None. Ob Nixilis Reunited. Draws cards, destroys a creature. What more could you ask for? Obviously not as good as Nicobolus, but still pretty amazing. Pretty much does almost the same thing. Okay, now we're at Sorcery. Okay, Angrath's Rampage. I normally would never play this card. It was in there to replace Doomblade originally, and the only reason it made its way in is because of all the different options. Sacrifice creature is probably never going to work for you. They're probably going to have like 3 creatures. But sacrifice a planeswalker is always relevant. Sacrifice an artifact is always relevant. So minimally it kills the planeswalker straight up. The other 2 are hit or miss. But it does 3 things. Pretty great. Damnation, super self-explanatory. You need to wipe the board. Comes up. Gonna happen. You're gonna need to do it. Wipe the board. Demonic Tutor. Search for your library for anything. Dreadbore. Have to worry about those planeswalkers. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. So 2 mana just to kill a creature or a planeswalker. Super good. Very on point. Very efficient spell. And you need 2 mana kill. You really do. So better than Doomblade. Extract Brain. Extract Brain is in here for fun. Target opponent chooses X cards from their hand. Look at those cards. You may cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. Realistically, this costs 4 most of the time, sometimes 5. But then you get something for free. So you're getting maybe a really good spell from them for free. Best case scenario, they have 1 card in, well, it could be a land. You could hit a land and just, that would suck, but you get a free spell from it. Okay, Flood of Tears. Flood of Tears was a different bounce spell, but after thinking about it, it has to be an all effect, and I really need a bonus. You can play a cheaper spell at 5 mana. Does same thing, return all non-land permanents to the owner's hands, but for 1 extra mana, just 1. If you return 4 more non-token permanents you control this way, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you're probably going to have 4 permanents. Minimally, you're going to have like 2 mana rocks hanging around. Minimally. And you're probably going to have some small creatures hanging around that you don't really want. But even if you don't, and it's like it doesn't bounce back anything great, and you don't get the bonus effect, you probably still want the effect of returning all, with the option of maybe getting something good from your hand. Maybe. Okay, on to the lands, because lands is the final part of the deck. So I'm going to go quick through this. Some have explanation, most don't. Most are just there for color fixing. So, Badlands, Blood Crypt, Bloodstained Mire, Bojuka Bog. Okay, so we got some extra graveyard exile. Castle Lochwain. So, Castle Lochwain's important. Late game. Kind of late game. Same reason for Castle Vantress. And then we have Command Tower, Crumbling Necropolis, Dragon Skull Summit, Drowned Catacomb. Oh, I caught Ghost Quarter. Not playing garbage like Ghost Quarter. Well, I can't remember the name of the card right now, but Ghost Quarter has been cut. For the other, I think it's been cut for Strip Mine. I just straight up cut it for Strip Mine. So I'm just gonna put Strip Mine in. Strip Mine. Boom, Strip Mine. What's the new Strip Mine look like? Boom, Strip Mine. It's in. Okay. Okay, so we were right here. So the only card really left in here worth mentioning is Volvrath Stronghold. Of course, it's on the reserve list, so it makes it stupid expensive. But this is Commander, and you just pick up a proxy somewhere. You can pick up a proxy of Volvrath Stronghold, print it out as a proxy. It really doesn't matter. And it goes in the deck, and it's stupid expensive. It's over $100 now. And the reserve list is just stupid. I'm sick of it. I've been playing Magic forever, and it really doesn't have any point. Like, there's no point. If anything, it's probably the most feel-bad thing about the game. I know it's a massive churn and burn, and you're just blowing cash all the time in Magic the Gathering, but it's just a game, people. You're just there to have fun. And why am I gonna spend $100 when I could go online and buy a proxy for like $5 that looks exactly the same as this? Exactly the same. And I'm never going to play it in a tournament. And personally, I think Commander tournaments are super lame. Like, Commander's just supposed to be for fun. So that's pretty much it. That is my 100 cards. There was some sideboard stuff, but sideboard's just kind of dead. I feel like the only other things worth mentioning is extras here, just for some bonus content. Energy Flux was a enchantment sideboard card, which it got nerfed after a while. Oh, this is the artifact one. Aura Flux. Aura Flux. Aura Flux. Destroy enchantments in blue. Super helpful. And then you have Perilous Volt as another alternative that might go in the deck for more exile effects. And I don't remember what Debt to the Kami is. Let's look it up quick. It's probably one of those enchantment effects. Yeah, target opponent exiles a creature they control, target opponent exiles an enchantment they control. So I just decided to not go with that because it wasn't good. Like, it's gonna be difficult. Like, you'll never get the enchantment you want. So anyway, that's my deck. That is Crosis the Purger. And if you enjoyed the stream, please subscribe. Follow me on Twitter or subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Anyway, everybody have a good day. Bye-bye.